It is my pleasure to introduce my colleague, Nikita Desai, who's the Director of Policy and Corporate Programs here at the Korea Society. Nikita came to us from the Asia Society. She also has had broad experience on Asian issues with the Asia Foundation, among others, and served with the United States Peace Corps in Mongolia. She's a tremendous talent. She's worked very arduously on issues of trafficking of women. Some of you may have heard the program that she did here on the trafficking of North Korean women, as well as the program that was done here with Roberta Cohen on the parts of the Commission of Inquiry report that dealt with violence against women. So it's a real pleasure to have Nikki facilitating this discussion on North Korea and information access. Nikita.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you. Well, thank you so much for that kind introduction, Stephen. Welcome, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. I'd like to introduce our two main speakers and our interpreter who's here with us. To my right is Mr. Kang Chul-hwan. He is the author of the seminal work, Aquariums of Pyongyang, which many of you have probably heard about. It was one of the first survivor accounts of prison camps in North Korea. And he is currently a contributing author to Chosun Ilbo, who he was a staff writer to prior to that. And he's currently the president of the North Korea Strategy Center in Seoul. And on the outside here, Mr. Park, but very much on the inside as well, is presently the CEO of the North Korea Strategy Center, the U.S. office. Mr. Park is from Hamgyong province in North Korea. He was born there. He studied in the medical school there and worked as a dentist in Hamgyong for a few years. He's attempted to escape twice. On his second successful attempt, he arrived in South Korea in 2006. And since arriving in South Korea, he has obtained a bachelor's degree in business administration from Yonsei University and is also currently studying to obtain his PhD in political science. So please join me in welcoming both of our speakers. Last but certainly not least is the very important role of the interpreter here, Christine Han. She is with the North Korea Strategy Center, also as a COO of the U.S. office here. So thank you so much for interpreting tonight. Well, this was certainly a very important piece of work, and now we see so many defectors writing their personal stories and writing about their experience escaping from North Korea. Tell us about what has changed. What is information access like in North Korea since you left?
그러니까 먼저 저 개인 스토리를 좀 말씀을 드리면, 저는 이제
So to explain a bit about my personal story, because of my grandfather and grandmother's accusations for political treason, I spent 10 years in Yodok prison camp. And the reason I decided to escape from North Korea is after listening to the radio, through which I understood more about the world outside North Korea.
그 라디오 때문에 사실은 제가 외부 세계에 대한 정보를 알게 됐습니다. 그리고 이제 그것 때문에 사실은 탈북을 하게 됐고요. 예, 그리고 제가 사실은 그 92년도에 한국에 와서 그 처음으로 이제 북한에.
So in 1992, I arrived in South Korea, and that's when I first started to spread a lot of awareness about the political prison camps that are still existent in North Korea. And from then until 2007, I focused on North Korean human rights activities.
그 북한의 인권 문제를 전 세계에 확산시키는데 전력을 해왔습니다. 한 15년 이상.
For 15 years, I focused on raising awareness about North Korean human rights, but not much had changed.
없었습니다. 그래서 이제 그 우리가 경험했던 동유럽.
So when we look at examples of Eastern Europe or the Jasmine Revolution, of course there is a role for the external community, but he realized that there is a need for change from within.
거기 변화가 쉽지가 않다는 것을 알게 됐습니다. 그래서 이제 2007년도에 저희가 북한 전략센터를 설립을 해서.
So in 2007, I established the North Korea Strategy Center, and this was founded with the thought that everything that I had done in terms of raising awareness for human rights has started basically with one radio, and the radio that I had listened to before I escaped.
결국은 이제 자그마한 라디오에서 시작됐다는 것이죠. 예, 그래서 저는 이제
So with my own personal story and listening to others who had defected after me, I realized that the main important thing was to break the government control of information to address, to actively approach those who are within North Korea.
중요한 변수라고 생각을 하게 됐습니다. 그러니까 그 제가 탈북한 이후에 그 90년대
After I defected from about the late 90s into 2000s, about 3 million people starved, and I think there were great changes within North Korea.
북한에 새로운 어떤 변화가 일어난 것 같습니다. 이거는 이제 국가가 더 이상 북한 주민들에게 배급을 주지 못하고
So the North Korean government rationing system was not working, and therefore the prior ways of controlling information wasn't working either. And people were turning to a self-created market system as we saw changes in the regime. And these changes in the regime led to information change within North Korea.
결국은 정보의 확대로 이제 이어지기 시작했다는 것입니다. 그러니까 제가 북한에 있을 때에는 그 외부의 정보를 듣는 루트가 크게 두 가지가
So when I was in North Korea, there were two routes to listen to information, and I benefited from both. The first were radios, and after I left Yodok prison camp, I was able to listen to radios. The second is through the South Korean government and the balloons and leaflets that they sent. And in the mid 80s, when I was in Yodok prison camp, I was able to see the balloons that they had sent directly to Yodok prison camp. And reading these pieces of information and listening to the radio made me think that there is an outside world that cares about us, and it gave us hope. And in 1998, with the Kim Dae-jung government, these information efforts stopped from the South Korean government.
하는 그런 그 기대감이었는데 이러한 그 에드벌린에 의한 어떤 그 한국 정부의 주도에 이런 것들이 결국은 이제 98년도에 그 김대중 정부가 들어서면서 중단됐죠. 그러니까 그 한국 정부가 중단한 그 에드벌룬이나 뭐 라디오 사업이나 이런 것들이 그 햇볕 정책에
So after the Kim Dae-jung administration, the projects to send in leaflets and balloons basically ended. And though there were changes from the Sunshine Policy to other policies, efforts on behalf of the government in South Korea to send information into North Korea basically ended.
그 한국 정부가 그런 것들을 하려고 할 때는 아주 이제 그 격렬한 반응을 이제 보이고 있습니다. 그래서 저희가 최근에 탈북하는 그
So when we interview younger defectors who had recently come to South Korea, we realize that many South Korean dramas are going into North Korea. And this route is through brokers who are in China who respond to the demand in North Korea as North Koreans ask for these dramas. And despite the fact that this seems like a very small way to address the demand, there has been a great increase in the number of dramas that North Koreans are able to access.
북한 내부로 상당히 이제 퍼지기 시작했다는 것이죠. 그러니까 북한 사람들이 그 먹을 것도 없는데 어떻게 그런 드라마들을 보냐. 그러니까 이게 과거에는 정말 먹을 게 없어서 드라마가.
So people ask, the people in North Korea don't even have food. How can they have the luxury to watch dramas? And the fact is that recently there's been an oversupply of creation of TVs in China, and therefore a great number of TVs were sent over the border for low cost into North Korea. And those who are manufacturing this now cater to North Koreans, and there is a USB port that is on each one of these TVs, so that if the North Korean government seeks to prosecute people, there's an easy way to hide the content that they're watching.
기관이 갑자기 들어와도 숨길 수 있는, 그러니까 USB를 꽂을 수 있는 디스플레이들을 이제 만들어서 북한에 이제 팔기 시작했다는 것이죠. 그런데 이제 그 USB
An average USB costs about $15 to $20, but the average North Korean laborer makes less than $5 a month. And therefore, even the best occupations only make at maximum $30 a month. So this means that to even purchase a USB, you would have to work about 3 months. And though the number of South Korean dramas and the people accessing has expanded, when you look at the percentage of South Korean dramas as opposed to the other types of information that they access, these dramas are at most about 10%.
한다는 얘기입니다. 그러니까 저희가 이거를 이제 체계적으로
So to systematically send in these hardware devices, we first started in 2007 by sending in 5,000 radios, and our goal is to annually send in 5,000 to 6,000 radios. To correct what I said earlier, is 5,000 to 6,000 USBs that we effort to send into North Korea annually. But to describe the magic of USBs, the reality is that you can send one USB into North Korea, but you can make thousands of copies of the content on these USBs. Therefore, if we go to the people who sell this in Cheongjin, if one average USB could hold about 100 gigabytes of memory, this could easily become 10,000 or even more than that.
1000개가 될 수 있다는 얘기죠. 예, 그래서 지금 북한 지도부가
So the ruling party definitely tries to control the influx of these USBs, but we do have innovative ideas as to how to get these information, the disseminations projects to be more effective, and therefore it will be hard to stop on behalf of the ruling party. So depending on how many we send in what different methods we use, we believe that change in North Korea will be imminent.
이제 결정되게 돼 있다고 저는 믿고 있습니다. 그러니까 최근에 우리가 보낸 그 사례 중에 하나가 그 한국에서 유행했던 정도전이라고 하는 그 역사 드라마가 있었는데 이게 한국에서 엄청나게
So one recent example is that we sent in a historical drama called Cheongdojeon, which features the story of how the Goryeo dynasty in Korea became the Joseon dynasty. And North Koreans were very negative about this because the message is that monarchy and regimes can change. And amongst the, when we look at demographics, men in their 40s in North Korea reacted very positively to this drama.
북한의 국가안전보위부가 그 정도전을 무조건 막으라는 지시까지 떨어졌습니다.
How did they do this survey?
그건 이제 그 북한 내부에 있는 사람들이
So the people within North Korea, the way they communicate their demands and requests is through these brokers who are at the border. And when these brokers say, 정도전 has been very popular amongst people in their 40s, and this drama has about 40 episodes, and when we send in episodes 1 through 10, the feedback is, when are you going to send the rest?
그들의 어떤 성향을 쭉 조사해 보면 그게 뭘 좋아하는지가 나오는 거죠. 예. 예, 그러니까 최근에 북한의 내부 변화가 아주 이제 그 이상하게 지금
So there are several strange internal changes recently, but I believe that if we were to work towards peaceful reunification, there's a need to divide the Kim dynasty and the people of North Korea, and we see this divide happening.
지금 그 분리 조짐이 나오고 있다는 얘기죠. 그러니까 이제 그 엘리트 그룹 중에서 그 국가안전보위부나 군부나 노동당 핵심부
So aside from the leadership in the government and people who are central to the Labor Party, when we look at engineers and professors, those in the elite group, as they too face economic difficulty because of government actions, they're feeling that even if I go to South Korea, we won't have a tough time because of what we know now.
남쪽으로 통일이 돼도 우리는 잃을 게 없다. 이런 생각을 하기 시작했다는 거죠. 그러니까 여기에 우리가 정보를 확산시키면 좀 더 과속화가 돼서
So targeting this group, we hope to send in information to isolate the regime from the people to transition into a healthy democracy. We can't engage in war and we can't engage in any other manners, but through information which will lead to a peaceful change.
북한을 변화시킨 방법은 그 외부의 정보 유입밖에 저는 없다고 생각을 하고 있습니다.
Can I go back to his experience when he first listened to a broadcast on the radio? How did he obtain the radio, and what was it in the message that prompted him to seek life outside of North Korea?
그 제가 이제 북한에서 라디오를 처음 듣게 된 것은 그 북한에 라디오가 있긴 있는데 딱 북한 라디오만 듣게 돼 있는 라디오밖에 없습니다. 그런데 이제 그
So to speak about radios in North Korea, there are radios in North Korea, but you can only access North Korean broadcasting. But another way to get in radios in the past was my friend who had relatives in Japan. He was able to obtain a cassette recorder that had radio functions. And what you would do is you would register this in the security bureau that would then take away any other functions so that you can only listen to North Korean broadcasting. And after my friend obtained this, I had about 6 days where I secretly listened to the radio before they registered this with the security bureau. And as for the message that was most effective, I learned through one of the experts that was speaking about the Korean War that the Korean War was started by North Korea, not by South Korea. The message that was most effective to me was that this person explained that if one side attacks another, it takes at least 3 months for that side to respond. And that was just mind-blowing to me.
근데 어떻게 남쪽이 먼저 쳤는데 3일 만에 서울이 함락이 되냐? 저는 그 말 한마디에 저는 느꼈습니다. 아, 북한이 거짓말 하고 있구나. 저는 그래서 그 순간에
So at that point, I started not to believe what the North Korean government was saying, and I then started to share this information with my friend, and that's why information is so powerful.
그만큼 이제 정보라는 게 그렇게 무서운 거라는 거죠.
I'd like to now turn to Mr. Park. How much of it is the push effect, where you are sending in USB drives and balloons, and the balloon drops in North Korea, versus the pull effect? We have you've indicated prior there is a shift. We have black markets opening up in North Korea. There are young millennials using cell phones and trying to access DVDs from China. So can you talk a little bit more about that?
그 북한 주민들이 이제 외부 정보라는 걸 접하기 시작한 거는 이제 뭐 좀 전에도 이제 강 대표님이 말씀하신 아마 초기의 방법은 그 라디오였죠. 이제 저도 이제 역시 북한에서 이제 라디오를 이제 똑같은 방법이었죠. 이제 스테레오 라디오를 이제 몰래 부모님도 모르게 이제 방 한 켠에서 이제 밤에 불 다 끄고 이어폰을 꽂고 이제 몰래 그 들었던 게 이제 아마 모든 북한 사람들이 처음으로 이제 외부 정보를 접했던 이제 초기적인 방법이었을 겁니다.
To explain a little bit further, I too, just like Mr. Gang, first access information through radios, and I listened to secretly. Not even my parents knew, as I was listening to them in the corner of a room with all the lights turned off. And this is pretty typical of how people started to listen to information from the outside world in the beginning. But starting in about the year 2000, cassette tapes started to come in, and then videos started to come in, and they were pretty large, the size of books. And then VCDs started to come in, as Mr. Kang explained, with Chinese hardware coming into North Korea. And with one CD, or with a couple CDs, you could store several different movies, and that was very popular. And therefore, CDs were popular, and eventually even DVDs were spread within North Korea, which are very widespread. Afterwards, we started to realize that we could do more. We could do more and send in USBs, and therefore USBs had an even stronger capacity than past DVDs and CDs that we had sent in.
DVD를 이제 많이 보냈었습니다. 그래서 이제 그때도 역시 DVD와 CD에다가 영화 이제 남한의 영화나 뭐 미국의 영화 이런 영화들을 많이 이제 보냈었고요. 그때만 해도 저희가 할 수 있었던 것은 거의 영화가 전부였습니다. 근데 이제 그 이후에 아까 말씀하셨던 것처럼 이제 중국산 중국 컴퓨터가 싼 값에 북한에 대량으로 퍼지면서 결국 이제 우리가 USB라는 것을 드디어 이제 활용을 하기 시작했는데요. 그 USB에는 이제 과거에 DVD나 CD가 가지고 있던 것보다 엄청난 이제 장점이 있었죠. 처음에 북한 사람들이 원했던 외부 정보는 뭐 엄청난 것이 아니었어요. 처음에는 그냥
So in the past, when we talk about what North Korean people wanted to see, it wasn't very complex. What they wanted to see was dramas from foreign countries, because what they had access to were dramas from China and Russia and other friendly socialist countries with North Korea.
그 북한과 친했고 사회주의권이었던 그런 나라들 것밖에 없었던 거죠. 과거에는. 그래서 저희가 이제 그 CD와 이제 DVD에
So when we started sending in CDs and DVDs, then we could send in pieces of multimedia such as movies and dramas. And it could be more than just sources of entertainment, as we were able to insert information about human rights, economic development, freedom, and even love.
자유 혹은 뭐 사랑에 대한 이야기도 담을 수 있었죠. 결국은 저희가 그 DVD에서 USB로 넘어왔는데 그 USB가 저희가 북한 주민들에게 보내는
So talking about the transition from DVDs to USBs, one reason we feel that this was revolutionary is because we were not only able to insert movies, but also a Wikipedia akin to a Google search method. And as people in North Korea are also interested in English education, we were able to send in documentaries and other PDF files.
그다음에 이제 다큐 혹은 이제 어떤 외부의 지식을 알 수 있는 PDF 파일도 넣어서 보낼 수 있었다는 거죠. 결국 초기에는 북한 주민들이 호기심에 영화나 드라마를 봤다면 지금은 굉장히 많은 이제 외부 정보를 접하고 나서
So thus, in the beginning, if it was more so dramas and movies that North Koreans were interested in, curiosity peaked as now North Koreans are interested in even entrepreneurship and other things that would help them make profit in the black market. So as we're able to insert information such as multimedia or various types that we weren't able to before, we believe that constant communication with the North Korean people as to what they need is one way to seek change.
에 대한 지식까지도 저희가 지식과 이제 영상까지 여러 가지 형태로 보낼 수 있었습니다.
So this year we saw an escalation of conflict along the DMZ. Many news outlets reported it as a propaganda war between North-South Korea or a Korean Cold War. And at one point, North Korea did say, stop the propaganda, turn off the speakers, or face an all-out war. So, to what extent is this information dissemination a hindrance in inter-Korean relations, or possibly an obstacle in negotiating with North Korea, making progress on that front?
그러니까 이제 그 남북한 관계라는 게 저는 이제 지금까지 그 한국 정부가 어떤 선정해 놓았던 그 개념은 북한 정부와의 관계만 설정돼 있고 북한 주민과의 관계를 설정돼 있지 않았다고 좀 보고 있습니다. 그러니까 예를 들면
So when we talk about North-South relations, the way it's defined in terms of the South Korean government is only with the North Korean government, not North-South relations with the North Korean people. So when the South Korean government engages in action that is negative towards the government, one thing that is not taken into consideration is what about the people. So when you do something that the North Korean people will like, that has a definite impact of bettering situations on the peninsula and not worsening situations between North and South Korea.
북한이 반발을 했는데 그런 것을 보고 이제 사람들은 남북 관계가 악화돼 있다. 하지만 사실은 남북 관계가 악화된 게 아니라 오히려 북한 주민과 한국 정부 간의 관계는 상당히 좋아진다는 그런 얘기죠. 그러니까 이번에 목함지뢰 사건도 사실은 이제 북한 군부에서 아주 우발적인 사고로 인해서
So when you look at the mine incident that happened recently and the aggression that followed, this started with the loudspeakers that were placed on the border. But what North Korea was afraid of were not just these loudspeakers, but that it would escalate into a second level. There were TVs previously on the border, and with the Romian administration, these were not there anymore. He removed them. And these TVs were a way that the people in the military in North Korea could see broadcasting in South Korea, such as pop groups and other shows. And then there's a third level that they're afraid of, which is balloons sent directly by South Korea.
그러니까 이런 단계적으로 가는 것을 두려워하기 때문에 애당초 그걸 막으려고 한 거죠. 그래서 이제 일단 한국 정부가 북한이 반발하기 때문에
So when the South Korean government saw the North Korean government respond in terms of regret, that they had regretted this incident, we basically gave up what could be affecting the public consciousness of North Korea, and therefore it's hard to see this as a true victory.
우리가 결코 이겼다고 보기는 힘들 것 같습니다. 예, 그리고 저희는 이제 그 휴전선에서 이제 에드볼렌을 통한 어떤 그 북한의 그 정보 전달 이런 것보다 오히려 북중 국경을 통해서
So when you see the DMZ and balloons that are sent, the reason that we chose not to and to address the North Korea-China border is we felt that that was a more secure and a peaceful way to engage in systematic change from within. When the South Korean government sends in balloons, the North Korean government uses this as an opportunity to control and seek pressure from within and to pressure the South Korean government. Through this, there is more tension between North Korea and South Korea, and there is a sense of instability in the region as well. And this is how the North Korea utilizes this as an opportunity for themselves. So I don't believe that that the way to address this on the border is the best way between North and South Korea. And the best strategic front would be the North Korea and China border. And therefore, the North Korean Strategy Center seeks to address this as a strategic method.
있기 때문에 저희 단체가 이제 그 원래 휴전선에서 하려고 하다가 그걸 포기하고 중국으로 이제 옮긴 것은 바로 그런 차원에서 저희가 그렇게 하게 됐습니다. 예, 그러니까 남북 관계라는 것은 이제 결과적으로
So when you talk about North Korean and South Korean relations, it's not just that just because the South Korean government is doing something that North Korea dislikes that the relationship had worsened, but the true policy is with the North Korean people, and therefore sending in information is what the North Korean people want, and therefore the relationship between North and South Korea is getting better in that sense.
오히려 남북 관계가 더 좋아진다고 봐야죠. 예.
Mr. Park, did you want to add?
저는 이번에 DMZ
I think that the incident on the DMZ gives us a very important lesson to learn from.
교훈을 우리한테 이제 주고 있다라고 보고 보고 있습니다. 북한의 도발로 이제 지뢰가 터졌고
So to go over, there was an aggression on the side of North Korea, and 2 people in the military in South Korea were injured. And when South Korea requested an apology, North Korea didn't apologize, and therefore South Korea retaliated with the sending of loudspeakers, and therefore the North Korean government said, "Please take away these," and that's how this came to an end.
북한이 사과를 하고 꼬리를 내린 격이 됐습니다. 여기서 가장 우리가 조심스럽게 이제 잘 지켜봐야 될 점은 북한이 왜 사과를 했냐라는 거죠.
So to look at this carefully as to why North Korea apologized, when we look at the history of relations with North Korea, we would try to negotiate and maybe give in and therefore reach a conclusion. But this time it seemed like they were even going to go to war, but then they apologized. And this is a big mistake on their part to show exactly what they were most afraid of.
무엇인가를 사실은 북한 정권이 스스로 보여준 아주 북한이 실수를 크게 한 거죠, 이번에. 결국 북한이 가장 무서워한 것은 뭐 미국의 항공모함도 아니고요.
So in the end, when you look at what the North Korean government is most afraid of, it's not U.S. military power or South Korean military power or even economic sanctions, because the regime in North Korea has sustained throughout all these various factors. But the thing that they're most afraid of is instigation from within, and that results from foreign information being sent into North Korea so that people from within can raise their public consciousness to understand what is going on with the North Korean regime and the true reality.
뭔가를 깨닫고 정권에 대해 실체를 알아가는 것, 그게 북한 정권이 가장 두려워하는 것입니다.
If I may just follow on to that, what you just said, some do say that, information dissemination is really leading to more and more defections happening, more and more people leaving, but that it may not be targeting the underlying system of oppression in North Korea. So what does he think of that?
사실은 이제 그 탈북을 한다는 것은 이게 쉬운 일이 아닙니다. 그러니까 이제 예를 들면
So the act of defecting North Korea is not easy. There's 2 types. One is people who are at the border who are hungry and are seeking to leave because of survival. And the second is people like me who had a reason and a thought behind it by listening to radios. And I wouldn't have left North Korea if I didn't listen to the radio. And many people in the elite category would be the same situation as myself.
탈북자들은 대부분 외부의 정보를 듣고 이미 남쪽 사회나 국제 사회를 이해하고 있었기 때문에 탈북을 한다는 얘기죠. 그러니까 최근에 이제 그 뉴스에서 이제 크게 보도된 그 한 뉴스가 있는데 최고위층 탈북자 한 20명이 이제 20명 이상이 올해만 이제 왔다, 이제 그런 뉴스가 왔는데 이건 뭐냐면
So look at a piece of recent news. There was a piece of news that more than 20 people in the most elite classes of North Korea had defected in this year alone. And the fact is that when they are outside and when they understand the true realities about North Korea, then they have a full understanding as to why they need to leave, and therefore they escape. And there are pieces of news that say that the diplomatic lines between North Korea and Eastern Europe are worsening as well. So when you look at the numbers of people who are defecting from North Korea and eventually resettling, these numbers have gone down. But that's not because there's a lessening will of these people, but because the Kim Jong-un regime has used all forces, whether it's police or security bureau, to tighten the borders.
게 아니라 김정은 정권이 지금 그 탈북자를 막는데 북한의 인민군대, 국가안전보위부, 인민경찰 이 세력을 총동원해서 그걸 막고 있기 때문에 김정은 시대보다 지금 좀 줄고 있는 건 사실입니다. 하지만 이제 최근에 그 8월 이후부터 다시 또 이제 그 일반 탈북자들이 증가하기 시작했는데 김정은 정권이 아무리 그걸 국경을 봉쇄하고 막으려고 해도 이게 순간적으로 이제 그 가능할지 모르겠지만.
And after August, the number of defectors who have been arriving have increased, and this shows that perhaps temporarily the North Korean regime can control the number of defectors, but this will not have a permanent effect. And there are changing situations on the border, and therefore, when we look at strategic methods as to how to change North Korea, we've never addressed the thing that North Korea is most afraid of. Now, there are 2 things: one is information being sent in, and 2 are defectors leaving. And if these 2 things are blocked, then there is no reason that North Korea will ever change.
유입되는 것이고 탈북자가 북한을 떠나는 겁니다. 북한 주민들이. 이 2 가지만 막을 수 있으면 북한은 붕괴될 일이 없습니다. 그러니까 이 2 가지를 우리 외부 세계가 한 번도 한 적이 없어요. 예, 그러니까 지금까지 국제사회가
So, looking at the international community, they've engaged in various loud means, such as economic sanctions and other ways to address North Korea, but we've never done the one thing that they are afraid of the most.
북한 지금까지 버텨왔다고 보고 있습니다. 예, 근데 이제 최근에 그 북한이 그 노동당
Recently, there was an event planned with the anniversary of the Labor Party, but this was suddenly stopped, and North Korea had never engaged in an action where they were stopping something that they had already planned.
중단한 적은 아마 처음인 것 같습니다. 근데 이거는 이제 아마 중국이 북한에 압력을 넣었는데
So I think that this is perhaps if China had pressured them that North Korea had stopped their actions. There are two ways that China can assert pressure. One is to tighten the financial lines, which is very different from any economic sanctions that the U.S. would engage in. Because even if the U.S. engages other actors, if China doesn't comply, then this would not be as effective.
이걸 중국이 들어주지 않으면 아무런 소용이 없어요. 예? 예, 근데 중국이 아마 두 가지 옵션 중에 하나는 탈북자들을 아예 오픈시켜 버리겠다. 예?
And the other way is to open the borders for defectors, but this would obviously result in many political consequences. So I don't believe that that would have happened. So the way that China must have pressured North Korea is through these economic means.
그러니까 아마 이제 북한이 더 이상 그거 했을 경우에 북한이 견딜 수가 없는 거죠. 그래서 이제 북한이 그걸 포기했는데 어쨌든 이제 국제사회가 한국 정부도 그렇고 중국도 그렇고 북한이 가장 두려워하는 것들은 다 가지고 있지만 이거를 이제 실질적으로 북한에 투사하지 않고 있죠.
So currently, South Korea and China has the tools to change North Korea, but they're not investing in these tools. And when the government doesn't have the will to engage in these actions, and it's up to civic organizations like us. And we do try hard, but there is a lack of public consciousness about the importance of these efforts, and therefore we lack resources as well. So when you compare budgets, there was $100 million on behalf of the South Korean government in terms of the efforts that they had engaged in. But when you look at the budget of these civic organizations, it's less than $500,000.
이제 하고 있는데 대략 예산들을 보게 되면 한 50만 불 이하입니다, 사실은. 그러니까 거의 뭐 과거 정부 차원에서 했던 거에 비해서는 정말 무의미하긴 하지만 그래도 북한 지도부는 그걸 굉장히 두려워한다는 얘기죠.
I think in the interest of time, I'd like to ask one last final question. To what extent can we let information in until we start to see cracks in the system? And we have seen senior military officials being purged and other events happening on the ground. And some people can argue that North Korea is changing day by day. So until when will we possibly see a system collapse?
북한
I'm sure no one here can predict when the North Korean regime will collapse, not even God.
아마 신도 모를 것 같아요. 그 뭐 예전에 그 김정일이가
So it was the same with Kim Jong-il and even with Kim Jong-un that experts have said 1 year or 2 years, but he's been able to sustain the regime.
한다라고 했는데 뭐 지금까지 잘 버텨오고 있죠. 우리가 겉으로 보기에는 북한 정권이 굉장히 아직
So then we get to be curious. I mean, from the outside, there seems to be no change. Despite the pressures of the U.S. and economic sanctions, there seems to be no change. So what exactly is the effect and when will North Korea collapse?
굉장히 이제 궁금해하게 되는 거죠. 그러나 우리가 알고 있는 것 이상으로 북한 내부는 사실 지금 굉장히 큰 변화를
But there are great changes when you look at this. The market economy of North Korea is nothing that the planned communist economy of the government had intended. People create their own market economy and are making livings through these ways, and therefore it's going to be hard to revert to the planned economy of the past.
지금 이거를 되돌리기에는 굉장히 큰 어려움이 있을 겁니다. 지금 그 북한 정권도 역시 북한 주민들을 두려워하기 시작했습니다. 지금 예를 들면
And the North Korean regime itself has started to be afraid of the North Korean people. When you look at the currency reform that happened several years ago, where the government basically took the money away from its people, the satisfaction amongst the people was great, and therefore the North Korean government was quite startled and eventually executed the Minister of Finance, and therefore you can see that the North Korean regime is aware and afraid of North Korean people.
사용을 시켜버렸는데 그건 결국 뭐냐면 북한 정권이 아무리 독재자라고 해도 주민들의 눈치를 보기 시작했다라는 거죠. 또 얼마 전에는 이제 북한 평양에서 아파트가 하나 무너져.
And recently, an apartment building in North Korea collapsed, and for the first time for North Korean for the North Korean government, elite generals came on TV and publicly apologized to the people, and this had never been done before.
과거에는 전혀 북한 정권이 보여주지 않았던 모습들이죠. 결국 북한의 변화는
So in the end, when we talk about change, the change will never come from the government, but from the people. And as long as the change from the people can be quicker and escalate, that will lead to the change in North Korea.
변할 수밖에 없다라는 거죠. 그래서 결국은 북한 정권이 언제 붕괴되냐는 북한 주민.
So when we talk about when the North Korean regime will collapse, it really depends on how much the North Korean people know and when will they finally have a voice. No one will have an exact answer to this question, but it could be in 5 years or 10 years or even tomorrow.
그게 5년 후가 될지 10년 후가 될지 아니면 정말 내일이 될 수도 있습니다. 그건. 그리고 그 사람들이 얼마나 변화되느냐는 우리가 외부의 진실.
And when you talk about how much the public consciousness will change in North Korea, that depends on how many $2, $3 USBs we'll be able to send in. And as long as we're financially capable, we do plan to send in hundreds of thousands of USBs into North Korea. And therefore, there's 23 million people in North Korea. And until the government collapses, we will hope to continue these activities.
그게 북한 정권이 결국은 붕괴되는 날까지 이어지겠죠.
Well, this is wonderful. You've been more than generous with your time. I understand you have a flight to catch tonight. Please join me in thanking both of our guests today. And Christine, you were excellent. Thank you so much for being here. I'd like to thank the audience for coming to the Korea Society. If you're not members, please join us as members. Your membership is incredibly helpful for us to do the kind of programs that we do here. And the other thing that I would please urge you to do, if you have not gotten a chance to fill out the survey in front of you, please do fill it out. That tells us how well we're doing and how we can improve our programs. I'd like to thank Dr. Stephen Nerper, our Senior Vice President for Policy Programs, Peter Stumke, who's in the sound booth, and our hardworking interns, and Seo Kim, who is running the New York Korean Film Festival. Please do go to the website and sign up for tickets to amazing Korean films that we will be showing at the Museum of Moving Image. And if you're interested in further policy discussions, we are welcoming David Straub next Thursday here at the Korea Society from Stanford. He's going to be talking about his new book, Anti-Americanism in South Korea, A Look Back. So please do come back, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. Thank you.